Hey everybody, it's me, Pepe from Pepe's Plants and Pepe's Fruit Trees. Today I wanted to just show you the coffee plant that is 3 years old. I grew this from a seed. It has been in a 15-gallon container. Oh, I think I put that in there about a year ago. And right now it's April 7th, 2016. So you can imagine patience has been there for quite a while with respect to waiting for a seed-grown plant to produce this beautiful outburst of flowers. And 9 months from now, more or less, 8 to 9 months from now, we will be enjoying cherries, which is the name, or berries or cherries is what the term is for the fruit that'll develop all over these branches. Now, interestingly, you should be aware that this plant is what they call a short day plant. The coffee plant is, by the way, this is coffee Arabica. A short day plant refers to a plant that typically blooms in the spring when we have 8 to 11 hours of light. Now, when we talk about flowers, we always have to think about pollination, and this plant does produce a very nice fragrance. It's not extremely powerful. It's a light, very light scent in the air around the plant. But one of the things you need to be aware of is that the plant is going to do the flowering, and then the pollination will occur naturally just through insect or wind pollination. But pollination of insects is really not that critical. They even grow these indoors. This makes a great indoor plant, and the reason for that is that it's a plant that likes to grow, say, in an environment that has large trees above it that cause a filtered light to come down. Right now it's about 5:30 in the afternoon, and the sun is off to my right, which is to the west, because the sun is setting. And this tree is this coffee plant is underneath a crepe myrtle tree. I don't know if you can see that. It's a nice big old crepe myrtle tree up there. And that crepe myrtle tree is providing some filtered light. And the sun's pretty intense right now. It's really nice and comfortable out here. And it's soaking up that afternoon sun, or late afternoon sun. And I'm sure that it's very happy to get that little bit of extra sunlight. One of the things we'll talk about now is the soil. You know, your plant is going to be very happy in a well-drained location. But drained well means that you don't have any flooding there and the water just sits there and the roots get all nasty and wet, because that just leads to disease problems, and you don't want that. There's a lot of organic material in here, and as I bring that away a little bit, you can see that there's very small, thin little roots on the surface here. Okay, now I'm sure this guy's a little bit found in this pot, but I'm not going to sweat that right now. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to let it go through its cycle of growth here with the flowers and getting the coffee, and then once it slows down with all that, then we'll go ahead and we're going to go to probably a 25-gallon container. And I like to grow it in container because it is a little more challenging. Why is it challenging? Well, because you have to make sure you're putting nutrients in that soil and maintain that nutrient for the plant, or else, you know, with no nutrients at all, where's it going to get the nutrients? It's inside of a plastic container, for God's sake. So its nutrients are going to come from whatever naturally, you know, falls in there, decomposes, and so on. And if I dug in a little deeper, which I'm not going to do that now, I could probably pull out a couple of earthworms. But this has got very little of any synthetics from when it was first started in the 1-gallon containers from a seed. And then at this point, what we have is a plant that's been given pretty much compost teas, maybe some, no, I gave it some cottonseed meal, things that help reduce the pH of the soil. So you want to have the pH a slightly bit on the acidic side. You don't want to go crazy, but you know, a 6.5 is maybe even a 6 is fine. A lot of people like to do the 7, which is pH neutral. And that's okay, but they do better with acidic soil. I found that 6 to 6.5 is a good range. Some people grow them even more acidic than that. The more acidic or the more alkaline you go, you start to have issues with the nutrient uptake in the plant. You can see you have a nice little shoot right here, and one of the things that's real nice is after your plant has produced a fruit and it's no longer in that the flowering cycle, you can take cuttings, and then now anything you take from this plant, as far as the cutting is concerned, is going to be the same age. In other words, it's mature. already. It doesn't go from juvenile state, it's already mature. So a cutting will then produce the coffee very, very quickly compared to something grown from a seed. Let's talk about the temperature. What do we want? Well, you know, it's going to be happy with anywhere between 70 to 80, 85 degrees. You know, if you get into the 90 degrees, yeah, it's pretty hot. It's not going to be happy. But then again, it's in the shade. And here, this is really critical. This is like super important, especially for people that are growing them indoors. You want to have humidity of as much as 60 to 70%. 70% is ideal. So how do you maintain 70% humidity? Well, in the jungle, I mean, you know, the Amazon rainforest and places up there in the mountains, you know, you have a heavy crop, you have vegetation, you have large canopy trees, you have rivers, you have just a place that's really humid. Another thing about Arabica is it's not supposed to do well in Florida. It's not supposed to produce good. It's not supposed to do good here at all. And it's not even supposed to be a viable crop. So people don't really go out and try to plant themselves a coffee plantation in Florida. And part of that is, yes, we have the humidity, but we don't have the altitude. This wants to be up in the high area, high up in the mountains. And a lot of that, I believe, has to do with their soil, much better soil. Also, not only that, but they have, in many of these places, super fertile soil because of volcanic ash and things that are there. But another good part of it is that being up there in the mountains, you know, you have those cool nights. But if you're in an area where it gets into the 40s, 38, 39, 40, you're okay, you know. Heavy wind and stuff, you know, dry air is going to dry out the leaves, which is part of what happened here, because we did have a couple of months back, we had some cool, even though I do allow the plant to dry out, and that's something you should do too. You should let it dry out slightly between waterings, and then going through a slight little bit of period of dryness, you know, maybe a day or two, you know, if it's not too hot, let it go through a little bit of dryness, and that also helps to stimulate the flowers and the production of the berries. What I'm going to do also, another thing we'll do is in the next video, we'll show you some of the techniques for producing the cuttings from the plant. They're actually very easy to do.